All right, I am going to call this meeting to order. It is the Westchester Borough Council Smart Growth Committee meeting on Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. It is 7:00 p.m. I'm Nicole Shimoni, the chair. I'm here with Lisa Dorsey and Bernie Flynn. And the meeting's called to order. Any announcements? Seeing none. Any comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda? I have one. I would just like to say, I saw some conversation last night and I want to make it clear that I am for free speech. I am pro free speech. I am pro people coming here and making comments such as I'm doing right now. I don't care if you live around the borough. We are 1.8 square miles. I care if what you come here to say is relevant to the borough. And if I can take that information and become a better leader for you and all of the people that come to our borough and partake in our services and partake in all the things we do and all the things we are about. That is what I am for. So I just want to make sure that that is clear, that I welcome people to come here and make comments and tell us things that are relevant and make sense and make us better leaders and human beings for all of you that come to our borough. So just wanted to get that out there, make sure it's clear to those who are listening and are concerned, and we can get started unless there are.
Madam Chair?
Yes, would you like to make?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
Go for
I
it.
respectfully disagree with everything you just said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie, for disagreeing. And what I love is that when people come and say things that I might not agree with, I also am pro hearing those things and having those conversations. You don't have to agree with me. I'm okay with that. I still want to hear what you have to say because we can learn from each other.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. Said, God forbid you might learn something, Bernie.
All right, let's move on. Director's reports.
It's ping pong here.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to
I
read
can't
the
wait for
minutes.
ordinance to be adopted. Thank you.
Hi, guys. June was a busy month. We have made an offer to a candidate and are going through the hiring process for a new director. I'm very excited. His tentative start date is July 21st. That can't come soon enough. Not that this has been fun. We held a landlord open house on June 2nd and went over the portal. We went over chapter 66 rental requirements, the license requirements. There were about 15 attendees. Some of the bigger landlords were there. I thought it was helpful, and I do think I'm going to encourage the new director. I think this is something that we should do more consistently. I think the feedback was really helpful too. Rental license renewal period has been continuing. We are contacting all property owners and managers that have outstanding submittals and will not be depositing checks and issuing licenses until items are complete. Nick created a cool report, so it'll auto email anyone that has a connected portal account, but there's a lot of people that don't. So we do have a lot outstanding and do have the numbers in here of what's been approved. And we do have holds placed on all properties that have outstanding balances for the borough, including taxes and sewer. So we won't issue any permits or licenses until these have been paid. They need to contact Portnoy directly. I put the contact information here. Most of the properties that have these, I've sent an email to the housing department. I do think Will said stream protection. He's recouped about 50% more than normal for this, but property taxes have been recouped. And then Carrie has been working through outstanding sewer bills, which has been interesting. I think a lot of it was communication issues, but that is one of the requirements of the ordinance, that the property owner has the sewer bill in their name. And I think a lot of people in the past had been putting it in their tenants' names and not switching it. So that was good to catch. 250 East Market Street, the project has preliminary final approval and has submitted updated plans to be reviewed, not through Planning Commission, but just internally for, I can't think of any words anymore, to make sure that they're abiding by the decisions that were previously discussed. 7 North Adams has been, you guys know, they've got the special exception from zoning hearing board, but nothing new on that front. 210 to 214 Washington. After I wrote this, they had notified us that they are requesting an extension until August 31st, but will likely be revising the plans and with, I think, fewer units. So we'll be seeing that again. And the Wyeth property site work has commenced. No building permits have been submitted. We did have an internal discussion just on where things stand, but nothing new to report yet. And we are still waiting for DEP approval for the connection, the CMP connection management plan. We haven't heard back from them, but so we're still waiting for them to respond. Code enforcement, the code of officers have continued to inspect rental properties. There's been a lot of re-inspects, a lot of goodwill and customer service on their part. There was you'll see in next month's report, there's a lull in trash enforcement tickets. With the ordinance update, took me a minute. We had to fix all of the violations in our handheld system for them to be able to ticket for that. So I finally got those in yesterday.
Ramsey, I'm sorry, I have a question. So
Sure.
is that what you're referring to on the code, in your report, the code enforcement issued for grass, snow, and trash? And, we saw an uptick starting in January and continue to grow, and then it dropped significantly in June.
Yeah, June was also rough. Yes, one with the trash ordinance change, and they were just nonstop in rental properties. They had a lot of the big landlords. They were doing multiple units a day, pretty much from morning till the end of day, and then doing the reporting for it. And they were also working through some of the notice of violation stuff that comes in through the case requests. So this is more, the grass, snow, and trash is more of like proactive, wandering out on a route sort of situation, and they didn't have a lot of free time for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so this says annual rental inspections for June, there were 165 and one initial. That's 165 properties, not units. So some of those properties have 30, 40 units in them. So I think we will have different reporting and numbers next year because we'll have clear unit reporting.
Yeah, and I wonder, with all of the apartment buildings that are coming in, like that's going to be, I would imagine it's going to affect our capacity.
Yeah. So we've received 670 checks for 670 rental licenses. We have cashed, I've cashed more since then. I'm trying to give very clear reporting from SmartGov to the finance department so that it all reconciles clean. So we've cashed 163 checks in the amount of $29,096, and that was as of July 2nd for approved rental licenses. We've also had some online payments. I'm still whittling away with Keisha on the stack of checks that we have, but I think by the end of this week or next, we're going to have to decide what we're going to do with the people that haven't contacted us for an inspection or haven't given us a tenant landlord form, and then what we're going to do with their checks, how we're going to mail them back, or what we'll be doing, what the next steps are. For points, I know Sean has a lot of information on property maintenance points. I hadn't actually looked at the citation tracker, so I thought there were none for the month of June, but there were actually 5 points assigned to different properties. And then with code enforcement and building permits, I don't think you want me to read all of those numbers, but still chugging through here. And then code enforcement, again, not as high as the month before. And I do think a lot of that was just more time spent on rental licenses. You ready for your report? Okay.
Yeah, and I want to recognize Ramsey and the team. I see 40% of our rental licenses are valid and issued as of the first week in the rental license period. That's not happened in my 4.5 years here. So thank you. Thank you. We're way far ahead of where we were last year at this time. And I'm really looking forward to handing off a really nice, clean plate to the new director in a couple weeks. I want to talk a little about rental enforcement activity. Josh mentioned disruptive conduct reports, and there is an important partnership between the Building and Housing Department and the Police Department in this enforcement process. So if we go to the first slide, the yellow-orange bars show violations, citations that were issued by the Building and Housing Department. So what do you notice about this chart right away?
September.
Wasn't a whole lot going on building and housing first half of the rental cycle, right? We weren't
Same thing we saw on the other chart, right? Everything started happening in January.
correct. It's when Corday started, yeah. It's when we had enough code enforcement officers and we had the team coordinated well. However, there's also another trend here. You see a lot of the disruptive conduct reports issued by the police happening in August, September, and October. And why does that make sense?
The students coming back.
It's the new crop of students. Woohoo! I'm living by myself for the first time, and let's do something stupid. And it's also some targeted, everything Josh said about being mindful, planful, and executing things properly. That's also happening here. So that was a real big help for us. And in this entire rental period, we issued 111 citations together, Building and Housing and Westchester PD. 71 of those were issued by Building and Housing, 41 of them by Westchester PD. I think that with the right staffing and some concerted efforts, and let's remember we lost a code enforcement officer, Steve Hess, last year, and that was very unexpected. And that's part of the reason you're seeing these numbers look the way they do too. But I think that with a good 12 months of effort and the right staffing and the right training and the right system that Ramsey has set up, you're probably going to see that number of citations maybe jump by 30-40% in the next rental cycle. And I'd really like to see some of that. We're going to see that activity hit in August and September and October with the Building and Housing team. So going on to here, before we go on to the next slide though, I just want to make sure everybody understands that when the police department shows up for a noise complaint and they find that there is a reason to cite the person, they issue a citation. Whereas if it's raining now, when Building and Housing goes out and they see an issue, they give essentially a ticket or a notice of violation saying, correct this problem, pay a $10 or $20, $25 fine, and we're going to come back in 24 hours and make sure you fix the thing. That happens a lot. People fix the problems we notice them on. And those instances don't show up in this chart. It's only when someone has ignored us that they end up getting cited. So these are the people who have ignored our citations and let the problem persist. Ignored our tickets and notices. So go on to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. We don't know when we go out as Building and Housing or as Police Department whether it's rental property or not. So only 3/4 of the citations we issued were on rental properties, which in town we have 2/3, right? Rental properties by units. So not too far off, right? In terms of proportions there. I would have thought that amount of the piece of the pie that was rentals would have been bigger if you had asked me a year ago, but here we are with roughly 3/4. Next slide, please. And the violation types here, you're seeing the majority of them are accounted for as property maintenance and the disruptive conduct, public nuisance, and noise. Those together account for more than 90% of all the citations we issued. And we did have a little flurry of student home citations that we issued as well. And just as you recall, if they are found guilty of that citation. A student home's the biggest penalty. That's a 5-point violation. So go on to the next slide, please. So how are we doing once we get to the court? I should have chose a little different color here because I don't see it that well. 50 out of 75. So that's about 2/3 we're getting the guilty plea that we look for, right? So 1/3 of the cases when they go to court, they're getting dismissed or withdrawn. Withdrawn usually means there was a failure in the evidentiary process. We didn't record the evidence as we should have, and we had to withdraw the case, or we didn't charge the right person. It's on a technicality. Not guilty is just what it sounds like. And dismissed is when the judge just decides to dismiss the case for reasons that I don't entirely understand because I'm not a judge. But we have a pretty good success rate, and we're going to look at this as part of our enforcement component, because just like Josh was saying, it's a long process, and we got to make sure when we get to court, we're prepared, we have the right evidence, we're ready to state our case, because we went through the hassle, the problem, the work of citing this person. And it's usually for a good reason. So we got to make sure we can put on a good case in court. And so there'll be additional training for that for our team. And then there are a few cases that become inactive. What does that mean? Well, you write the citation. It doesn't often happen with a property owner. It'll happen with a noise violation. You write a citation to Steve Smith, and Steve Smith gives you their ID, and you write down their address, and you send the citation to Steve Smith. He lives in Wilmington, Delaware, and you never hear from Steve Smith again. And so 6-7 months go by, and then the court turns that over into an inactive case, just basically dormant, and a warrant's issued for that person, and we hardly ever reattach to that. So. And I just realized I said in a public meeting a way to get out of citations. So, but but it does happen. Not so much when we're citing property owners, because obviously there's more skin in the game there. Next slide, please. So our points accumulated, we had 3 properties accumulate 6 points, which got them a nasty letter from us that said, what are you going to do about this? And they have to they have to submit a corrective action plan that is reviewed and approved by the borough. In most cases it is, or we ask for it to be corrected. The magic number here is 10. Once the property owner gets to 10 points during a rental period, there are consequences that the borough can impose, thank you, good verb, on the property owner. You've got words today. And that could be the suspension, revocation of license for up to any amount of time that we want to do. We didn't get to that point this year. We had one property that had 6 points and had 2 active citations that would have driven it to 10. Had they been found guilty on those 2, and they were found not guilty on the 3-pointer, and the 1-point trash violation was dismissed. So that property ended the cycle with 6 points. So we didn't have any 10-point. Nobody won the prize this year. I think that's not the objective. The objective here is compliance. Maybe there might be 2 possibilities here. Maybe if we were more active in enforcement in Q3 last year, we might have had a 10-point property. Or maybe when we're sending those notes to property owners that we're serious about this, and we've gotten you for 2 trash tickets and a disruptive conduct, and you've gotten the letter from us and you're up to 5 or 6 points. Maybe people's behaviors are changing and we're getting to a point where they're not, maybe it's working. I don't know which outcome is right yet. I think it really comes down to what the property owner does with the information that they give us, that we give them. So this is the slide. You see the frequency distribution there. A lot of 3-pointers. That was people who got a disruptive conduct notice and were basically one and done. And we had a handful of property owners that were in the 5 and 6 point range, but no 10s. So next slide. So just some recommendations that come out of this. I think that the PD and building and housing integration was a win. When we were kind of low in our enforcement activity, the PD was really hitting the new students in the fall in those areas of the borough pretty consistently. That was great. We have to be consistent in our performance. That is the proactive enforcement, the follow through on that. You wrote a ticket. Hey, did they fix the problem within 24 hours? Is the answer no? Okay, let's write a citation. Do you know how to write a citation? Great, good. You put it in. Did you put it into the system? All of those little details we've gotten our handle on in the last, especially the last 6 months. And we have to do that well. We have to do a little bit of debrief, like why did the cases that get dismissed? Let's figure out the reasons and see if there's some things we can do to correct that. And another thing, for you all to consider would be maybe extending the period in which points can accumulate on a property. Maybe pushing that out to 18 months or 24 months, because I think 10 points is a lot, right? If you think about it, to get a point for a trash ticket, you got to not fix it. Like, we come out and give you a notice and you don't do anything about it. I mean, come on. Or you have to have got, or it could be your 4th trash ticket at the same property. Then we automatically issue you a citation, but that's only worth 1 point. You have 1 or 2, you could have 2 disruptive conducts and 2 trash tickets. 2 times that you ignored the borough about a serious property maintenance issue and you had 2 behavior problems, you're still not at 10 points with that much feedback. So think about it. If you want to change the goalposts, if this is enough information for you to want to do that or not, something to discuss amongst council. We're going to get better at this. And I think that the next rental cycle, we're going to have even a clearer picture of how this is going to land. And it's probably going to look a lot like the last six months have gone in this next 12-month cycle. And wouldn't be here if we didn't have the budget support for this. We had a lot of conversations last year about needing people to make this happen. And it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't gotten that support from everybody up here. So.
Yep. I think we made a commitment to the community, to residents, right? That we were going to sort of bear down on this and really get serious around tracking the points and ordinances, and then revisit, whether or not this system was working. So, we may be at the point where we either look at lowering the points or extending the period. Because I think getting someone in, and maybe it will get better, but we've been doing this almost a year now. And we've been through 1 cycle, let's put it that way. I don't know that how effective we're going to be. Yes, we are now effective, but are we really getting to the results and changing behavior that's really having an impact on residents that live, next to, around, across the street from these properties? So I think it's worth a conversation.
Ms. Dorsey's point, the one that almost got the 10 points that was dismissed, they tortured the neighborhood for the entire school year. And it just never made an impact on them, even though the owner, kept getting notified. And so as to your point, the 10 points for that property, which was a fraternity house and an animal house, is a good example of how far you could push it for a calendar year, for a school year. So, maybe the 10 points could probably work, but assess the disruptive behavior as a higher point. Because that's what really tortures the neighborhood. Trash you can clean up, but shooting Roman candles in people's yards and blowing up trash cans and, that kind of carrying on. If the police go there, it's more of a problem. I'm sorry, Daryl. It's more important than a trash.
I hear
So
you.
maybe we should look at the police, the points for the police and raise them
Mhm.
slightly higher. Well, we don't raise them too high because the local judge will think we're picking on people. But if we incrementally raise them, just the nuisance ones, that's the problem, the nuisance, that they're driving the neighborhoods crazy. And if you look, the list is gone. If you look at the list, it's all down the southeast area. So,
Yeah, maybe first, second, third is 3, 4, 5.
yeah, I'm saying that the nuisance thing is the biggest thing in the
Because
neighborhoods.
you can get it to your, if you want to stay focused on disruptive conduct, you can get 3 of them and not reach 10.
We don't want to change, see, if we try changing the numbers, all of a sudden now we're picking on somebody.
Mhm.
But if we change the numerical order to get there, what's more important? The nuisance, compared to trash and
Okay.
high grass, property maintenance. They're torturing the other students because they live side by side because they're trying to study, and you're torturing the neighbors that live there, like
Yeah.
Daryl, poor Daryl.
I'm confident we could track an escalating point penalty for disruptive conduct.
I like
Got
that.
the
idea,
system in
too.
place to do it.
One other thought I had too is I don't know if we are sitting with any open, I'm sure we are with some open cases.
We are.
So my thought is, do we close, like, if a property has an open case, I feel like there's opportunity to say, you don't close out. If you've got something that's still.
Oh, yeah. If pardon me for cutting you off, I apologize. If you're cited in June and the court finds you guilty in July, it counts in July on the next rental cycle.
It counts in the next rental cycle. Right.
Yeah.
We want it to count in the old rental cycle. Like if you did something in February and you don't go to court until July and you had 7 points in June, and then in July you get 3 more points because you didn't go to court until July, I feel like it should be backdated, or you know what I mean? Like it should be account for the time where you get the citation versus the time when the resolution occurs. Because the citation is when it happens. The problems happen in the calendar year versus the problems happening. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm thinking it out in my head.
But did we do that cycle because July 1st, those students have moved on? They've either graduated, they've gone home, or they've gone to another rental property.
But the property owner hasn't moved on.
No, the property, true.
Yeah, well, this year there was one property.
Yeah,
owner,
but that's
But-
not the rule, right? That's the
Yeah.
exception. You're right.
So
Yeah.
If the final penalty goes back to the property.
Yeah. But then July 1st, they've got new tenants,
Yeah.
right?
So
So-
they would be counted to the next year.
So they wouldn't be able to rent the following year.
It-
They'd lose their license for the
Yeah,
following
but for
year.
the following year, I guess, or, something, yeah. Like that idea, yeah.
Yeah. As a scale, you get
Yep.
one, it's 3 points or whatever it is, or 2, whatever the number is. Then if you get a second one, it goes up 1 extra one. And if you get a third one, it goes up again. And that way there you get closer to saving the neighborhood instead of, letting them go from August, well, actually July to June.
3 nuisances and they would be at 10, right? If we did the 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Yep.
3 structure out.
What do we need to do to get, oh, Daryl, yes, because I know you've,
Daryl Cook, South Walnut Street. The old interpretation had been that points stuck for a 12-month floating year from issue till 12 months later. The new expiration at license year seems new to me. Thank you.
we'll have to check into that. Yeah, double check that.
So if they
Gotcha.
got a citation in February, it wouldn't roll off until next, so those points would carry forward. Yeah,
That's how it's written.
yeah.
All right, well,
And-
we'll go back, you know, because we're all slightly
Yeah.
fuzzy on it, and we can all read
I
the,
don't know if
it's
that really
not that
solved
long
the
of a
problem
document.
either.
So
all
we'll
agree
both
that maybe we
cross-check.
could change the incremental
Mhm.
point system to be more, more time out on the step, So,
So yeah, so how do we get that moving? How we? I mean, I guess it would be it wouldn't end up being for 2025 to 2026. It would be something that we would try to do for 2026 into 2027, I would think, the way we move that at our rapid speed that we move to update things.
Well, if the committee wants to make a recommendation to amend chapter 66 and have an idea of exactly. And you have an idea what that language should be, the committee could do that now.
Okay, so the,
It's not a matter of financial. So even though it didn't really appear on the agenda, you can make a recommendation on it, so.
okay, I think we recommend to adjust the points allocated to nuisance events from a standard 3-point allocation to a graduated, good word, nice word, Bernie, graduated allocation.
working, I can help you.
And we agree sometimes on things too, right? Yeah, see how that all works? People, life. So a incremental point at every incremental citation. So 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, we probably wouldn't need to get to 6, but yeah.
At 1 point for every escalation.
Yes. For the nuisance only, it sounds like right now we're only focused on nuisance.
Community problem is the nuisance.
So I guess my question is twofold. One, do the points stay with the house? I thought they stayed with the house. And secondly, if they stay with the house, why can't we extend that time frame that they stay with the house? I don't think that you should sit here and try to solve that issue right now, but I think it needs to be solved. I think it does need to be tweaked because it's not as effective as it can be. It was almost effective this past year with everyone kind of just managing it and looking at it and, maintaining it. But I think it could be more effective if we did a number of the things you're talking about, perhaps extend the time, perhaps change the pointing system. And what was the other thing you mentioned? You mentioned something else.
About if they were cited in February, that it actually, if they got the point in August, it would go backdate.
Well, I
But
think
that
if-
might
if
be
we
covered
extend the
we extend it.
time,
Yeah.
Because right now I think it goes the school calendar year. It doesn't go the normal calendar year. So if we extend it out from 12 months to say 18 months or something like that, I think
24.
Yeah.
It gets to July, then.
It'd be like async or something. It'd be like a little weird.
Okay. Well,
No,
I'm not
track.
suggesting we figure out the month right now. What I am suggesting that we go look at the details of it again, because it's really, it's not easy. It wasn't drawn easily and it's obtuse. And so I really think we just need to just revisit it and address it.
Well,
But I
what do
don't
you,
think that can be done tonight.
what do you two think about putting in our proposal that Ramsey's putting together, like a 2-year versus a 1-year?
The only problem, I know it stays with the house, okay? It stays with the landlord or the house. The first crop, the first 12 months, those people could be really, really bad. And then the second group does 2 things wrong, and all of a sudden, everything, you're punishing
For past deeds.
for past, past performance. But, I just know how the judge acts over that place. And she is a stickler for exact detail of why you're going to punish these people. They had nothing to do with the 6 points, but because they got 4, for trash, now the whole thing blows up. That's the only concern I
That's a
have.
good point.
Yeah, but the judge is when I tell you a stickler for detail, she is. So
Lisa, any thoughts from you on that one?
My initial thought is I like extending the period, although I think Bernie makes a good point that folks who are not violating the policy could potentially be penalized.
I do think, if you look at all of Sean's nice charts, there really was a change between January and now. And I think if we continue to participate, knowing that the goal isn't to get rid of somebody's rental license, but to have that stick when we need it, I do think with the communication with the landlords and a new director and, the staff just having more resources, more training, they'll have done this more and we're getting SmartGov cleaned up so it's easier to send out NOVs. I think that you could definitely change the incremental escalation of the nuisance, but maybe give it a year. And then if after the year, we're like, oh, well, these were all the problem properties that didn't get it that should have, then we could look at changing the timeline. But I do think Bernie's right about we'll lose that anyway.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. All right, so we'll stick with the 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so do we have to say anything official to get it on the work session or, all right, we're good? Okay, all right, let's keep moving forward. New business. No, wait,
Well, business.
where am I? Where are we?
We're at the director's at the very beginning.
Yeah. What time is it? Okay. Motion to approve Smart Growth Committee minutes, June 11th, 2025.
Excellent.
All right, we're good. All right, now new business. Motion to grant extension until August 31st, 2025 for 210 to 214 West Washington Street, Axel Square Land Development Project.
Yeah, like I said, they I think are going to resubmit new plans with fewer, I believe, 6 townhomes as opposed to 8. I'm not sure why, and I haven't seen anything else yet, but I do have an extension letter.
All right, so I just want to put on the record them decreasing the units. I mean, they are the owners of the property. It's by right and all of those things. It kind of makes me a little sad. I asked the question why. I hope it's not because we've made it too hard for them. And with all of our changes and suggestions and things that they've been very accommodating to, they just find that they can't make as many units because as you've heard me say before, I'm a proponent of building more homes, building more affordable homes. My assumption is if they do 6 properties, they're going to be more expensive versus 8 properties and all of these things. So if anyone's out there hearing this, my hope is to understand why. And again, if we're making it hard for them to fit all those 8 units in, let's talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, so
All
are we
right.
granting that extension? We're good?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, extension 3-0. Yep. All right, motion to approve HARB applications.
So the first one is for Turk's Head Wines. She is installing new kitchen and a commercial exhaust system. I know she had to come back a couple of times to HARB, was very accommodating. I think they have, they're recommending approval based on a few modifications and clarifications, which I believe she's comfortable with. Okay. Oh, okay. Then there is 19 and 20 are very similar, both for St. Agnes. They are installing new mechanical equipment in the rectory office for number 19. And that was recommended for approval based on the 625 specs. And so that's for St. Agnes rectory office air conditioning unit. Is everyone good with that? Okay. And then same St. Agnes choir mezzanine. And there, I think the condition was that no visible piping or wiring. And the last one is for 202 West Gay Street to replace front door and sign. And they recommended approval with revised specs from 626.
All right, any comments from you guys here? Any questions or comments from anybody out there? All right, then 3-0.
Great.
All right, item C, consider directing the solicitor to attend zoning hearing board.
So the first one is for 531 Marshall Drive. They're requesting relief from dimensional variance from their setbacks. And also in the area that they're in, there's no front yard parking. This is a corner lot. There was a previous zoning hearing board from 2021 that was similar. It was granted through zoning hearing. Council then filed an appeal to turn it over. So just, I want you to be aware of that. I know there is a lot of conversation about front yard parking. I don't know if that's a thing you want to start over there.
I mean, I remember the 2021 because I used to I still run past that house, right? And like all the other units had front parking and this poor home had like a little bit of front parking, not as much as their neighbors, and they were asking for it. And I'm like, why not? Everybody else does. Like, why are we being so hard on them? So that my perspective is why are we so hard on people if they want to have some parking? But I mean, you guys can give your opinions on this one.
It's not, well, it's not allowed as far as zoning is concerned. And Jerry, please pay attention because you're going to be dealing with this. When people want to park in their front yard, put a patio in the front yard and park on it. It's not permitted as far as zoning is concerned. And that's why they're asking for relief of it. And because it's in the zoning code, I'll support the zoning code. So.
I would permit it. I mean, we've got so many parking issues here. I was a little disappointed that like this drawing didn't really help me. I would have liked to have seen a different perspective, drawing, whatever, like have to go to the property to actually see.
I had a very tough time with this, and Sean spent a lot of time coaching me through this
I did too.
application. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yes, it's on the corner.
right.
There is a driveway. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah, it is a long driveway.
Yeah, can we can we Google and bring up a picture of the
That
actual
would really
property
be
real quick?
helpful.
It's 531 Marshall Drive.
Oh, it's the $1 million house.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I like the roof.
But that is true. Like they do have actually significant parking there. It's not like there's a need.
And they could actually make their driveway a little wider and they could double park.
Is that what they're asking for?
No, they're-
Just to make it a little wider? What?
No, so that is a bump out of paving, I believe, on the side for the driveway. And then they're adding this proposed garage addition. So they would park cars in the front, and then it looks like there's also more addition towards the back that's with, encroaching on the setbacks as well. That I don't know. I don't know.
Doesn't seem like they're, I mean, I'm usually a why not, but now I'm looking at it, it does not seem like they're hurting for parking on this.
Yeah,
Are they going to start charging $20 at the Christmas party?
There you go.
maybe.
There
Yeah.
you go.
So
I
the
guess send the
internet,
solicitor.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
the,
Okay.
yes, we proposed.
Because those lots are shallow.
Well, that's what they're requesting a variance for. Right. And the side setbacks. Yeah. Okay, so yes, solicitor.
We are going to send the solicitor, or we are recommending that we send the solicitor to this one.
Okay, and then 501 East Minor. Sorry. That's the Mountain Center.
Okay.
Good.
Oh, did we want to bring it up?
The-
Jeff?
So they're requesting a variance from, they want to light an LED message board. It is 465 feet from the Franklin Mint Federal Credit Union, and the ordinance requires 500 feet distance. So they're,
Okay.
yeah.
it's on the corner. It's where the existing sign is today. It's on the corner of the Leslie Pinckney Hill on Market Street where the existing sign is. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, not
So
in the
A
middle.
is where the credit union sign is, and B is where we want to put a sign for Mountain Center.
That's right.
That's
That's
the
right.
question.
Is it off the street?
And it's 400 and it's, okay. Yeah, it seems
So
reasonable.
it's next to the building, right?
Yeah.
Where they plant, would make sense for. That's where the driveway and the parking lot is. Right?
That's not
where
what's being asked for.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about, but that's not where the sign is today. The sign today is where B is.
Take us on a tour.
Bigger sign with a lot of messaging on it in front of someone's.
Did you find it? Go to 400 East Market and then go 465 feet from there.
Flood warning. Don't be downstairs.
Is it really?
Much bigger is that sign than the other one? It's pretty big.
Yes.
On the
Wow. Brick wall. Yes. On Facebook, if you put it on Facebook, you follow this.
Oh, that. Yeah.
They want a changeable one. Yeah.
And it's not exactly the way.
Now you're talking about.
Sean, as far as illumination, we do have criterias, I believe, in the code on how bright the signs are allowed to be. Yeah, right, Daryl? Yeah, the signs are supposed to be at a certain, I don't know what you would call it. Mr. McCoy probably knows. He's the engineer. You know, the illumination of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. A foot candle. I like that. I'd probably kick it over.
So my question is it permitted? Because I can recall trying to put just a temporary front of mom's terms to advertise something. And got called by the borough. We were gonna, yes, you will. And so, are ground signs permitted? Is that?
Well, that's a permanent,
Sign, big, so it's just the same size.
I don't know if it lists the current.
To
The
your
dimension? Go ahead.
question about illuminated signs, they are permitted so long as they're not illuminated between 10 o'clock at night and 5 a.m. in the morning. And there is a limit to how bright they can be that's defined with, as Mr. McCoy said, foot candles and a certain other things.
Does that work?
I assume that what we're putting in there is going to abide by the code, right? That we're not going to be brighter or shining all night long. The issue with this and the reason that we're here is because there is in the ordinance, it says the signs have to be 500 feet apart. And this is 465. So there's a 35-foot
Yeah,
difference.
What's 35 feet look like? Is it like
My
the
waist?
wall?
That's inches.
All that chocolate.
Don't even start.
Ones in the, or in the sweet,
Oh,
sweetest
Don't
word.
don't even go there. Yeah, yes, as long as it meets the code for foot candles and being turned on and off.
It's not uncommon for the zoning hearing board to, one of their generic conditions usually is that it comply with all of the rules of the zoning code. So that means if we find out that it's on at 1 a.m., we get a complaint, we can go and tell them it's a zoning violation, make sure you turn it off from
Yeah,
10 to
that's
5.
fine. Yeah, that's good.
All right, so we're 2-0
2-0.
no solicitor,
No solicitor.
2-0 no solicitor. Okay.
You recused
If-
yourself, right? Or
I
abstained?
recuse myself, just
Okay.
here for informational purposes.
Okay.
All right, D, discuss amendment to front yard setbacks of the zoning code.
So Planning Commission wants to modify the zoning for, I believe, just the town center to remove to make the front yard setback 0. I just wanted to to modify the front yard setbacks. I think they did want to take it all the way to 0. But I wanted to confirm with smart growth that this was something, I know that Nicole and I have spoken, and that there was a list given to planning commission at some point about modifying the front yard setbacks in town center. I just didn't want them to start, I can't remember, I thought it was 0.
That would, does that mean the setbacks would be none on the street?
Yeah, I think they wanted to be able to comply with whatever exists there to be closer to the standards of the historical standards. But again, I don't quote me, don't quote me fully on specifics. My goal here was to make sure that Smart Growth had recommended this to Planning Commission to work on and not backwards. I just wanted to make sure that we had like a good system in place, because I wasn't here when Planning Commission got their list. I think from my understanding that this was on the list of things they were to do in 2025.
It was actually on the list for
Okay.
setbacks was part of the list for 2024.
Okay.
It's bleeding into 2025. I think right now they tackled the height.
Yep.
They tackled the parking. They tackled, or was it the build 2 lines? The build 2
Yes.
lines. And so I think maybe that's what I'm thinking. The setbacks are kind of related to the build 2
Yes,
lines.
yes,
right? Yeah,
it is. And they had been going back and forth. I just didn't want us to spend a bunch of money working on an amendment to an ordinance with a solicitor without getting permission from Smart Growth, or at least knowing that you guys were in the loop about it.
Yep.
Seems like everybody's good with that.
And then the next item, of course, is, based off of Thomas's presentation a couple of months ago with regards to what can we do to make it easier to build homes versus big apartment buildings all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Going back to item A under new business.
Okay. So I will work on that with Planning Commission next week, and then we'll hopefully have an ordinance amendment for August.
All right, and then item E, discuss revisions to cafe permits, dining platforms and parking areas, and use of the street during Gay Street closure.
This is, again, I just don't want this to fall off the agenda. I don't have any updates, and I would really like to work on this with the new director and John O'Brien and kind of get this done before the end of the year so that we can roll it out in 2026. I just didn't want it to fall off the agenda.
All right, any comments? Oh, you know what I did not do? I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to C. Any comments from anyone out there before we adjourn for the Marshall Drive and East Minor Street? No, sorry about that. I skipped that. Any comments on D with what Ramsey had said about the setbacks? Okay. And then any comments that you want to share with Ramsey on the cafe permits? Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right. All right, any other business?
Because this is my annual fussing time. I didn't say cussing, I said F. Fussing. Fussing. So listen, come to Ward 2, come to the Davis property, which everyone is very nonchalant about, and the weeds stand as tall as, I wish there was, it sounds like it should be a song, where the weeds stand as tall as a person. Yeah, it's time to do something again about it. It's gone neglected for 3 years now? So I'm not sure where we are, what you've been doing. Nothing consistent unless I say something. But I think some consistent pressure needs to be done. And I'd like a conversation with council, with the entire council. I wasn't sure where this conversation should land, if it should land in public safety, because it is a public safety issue to have weeds that tall where vermin can live. And yet it's part of property that has sold. So that's why I'm bringing it to you all here tonight, the best and the brightest.
All right.
So,
Mayor, we know where the owner is, Mosaic, Pennsylvania. We have their
Right.
phone number, we have their address.
right.
The, as the director, the interim director said that the officers were busy doing inspections and it probably just fell off the table again. Because I forgot about it as well. But the Ramsey's hearing it now, and I'm sure Corday, our strong soldier, will be there tomorrow morning taking pictures
Yeah.
and sending a citation to Mosaic, Pennsylvania.
I don't understand why it's ignored. When you have someone from housing who lives half a block down, I mean, not from housing, from public works, I guess. But anyway, it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed consistently and routinely. But the weeds are high.
Good trouble. Somebody said that once. I like good trouble.
Just one, I'll just throw it out there because I had this idea. I don't know if it's actionable or anything is, wouldn't that be a nice skate park? Davis, it's a good, just, it,
You
because
blacktop it over and
but-
you can skate on
and
it.
it's.
You can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're trying
20
to
years from now.
consider well, no, I think you can do it now because we have blacktop over,
They have to do the remediation first. And then actually the senior center sits on remediated ground. That's contaminated ground. And the fellow over there, I can't think of his name right now. He did a great job by doing what he had to do to fix the immediate problem. And then he covered it over, encapsulated it with macadam and stuff like that. So, but it's going to be a while before, but hey, I like the skate park idea. It'd be functional. And a dog park. I started that in 2017.
I like the idea of a dog park too. All right, I can get behind that too.
Oh, no.
We
No.
want the property from Eli for.
I remember when I tried that in 2017.
All right, any other business? All right, then I am going to adjourn at 8:02.